Hello, this is Mrs. Cratella, and I'm going to be reading chapters 1 to 2 of Ghost by Jason Reynolds. Chapter 1, World Records. Check this out. This dude named Andrew Dahl holds the world record for blowing up the most balloons with his nose. Yeah, that's true. Not sure how he found out that was some kind of special talent, and I can't even imagine how much snot be in those balloons. But hey, it's a thing, and Andrew's the best at it. There's also this lady named Charlotte Lee who holds the record for owning the most rubber ducks. No lie. Here's what's weird about that. Why would you even want one rubber duck, let alone 5,631? I mean, come on. And me? Well, I probably hold the world record for knowing about the most world records. That and for eating the most sunflower seeds. Let me guess. Sunflower seeds, Mr. Charles practically shouts from behind the counter of what he calls his country store, even though we live in the city. Mr. Charles, who, by the way, looks just like James Brown, if James Brown were white, has been ringing me up for sunflower seeds 5 days a week for about, let me think, since the 4th grade, which is when Ma took the hospital job. So for about 3 years now. He's also hard of hearing, which when my mom used to say this, I always thought she was saying harder hearing, which made no sense at all to me. I don't know why she just didn't say almost deaf. Maybe because hard of hearing is more like hospital talk, which is probably rubbing off on her. But yeah, Mr. Charles can barely hear a thing. Which is why he's always yelling at everybody, and everybody's always yelling at him. His store is a straight-up scream fest, not to mention the extra sound effects from the loud TV he keeps behind the counter. Cowboy movies on repeat. Mr. Charles is also the guy who gave me this book, Guinness Book of World Records, which is where I found out about Andrew Dahl and Charlotte Lee. He tells me I can set a record one day, a real record, but one of the world's greatest somethings. Maybe. But I know one thing. Mr. Charles has to hold the record for saying, let me guess, sunflower seeds, because he says that every single time I come in, which means I probably also hold the record for responding loudly the exact same way. Let me guess, $1. That's my comeback. Said it a gazillion times. Then I slap a buck in the palm of his wrinkly hand, and he puts the bag of seeds in mine. After that, I continue on my slow-motion journey, pausing again only when I get to the bus stop. But this bus stop ain't just any bus stop. It's the one that's directly across the street from the gym. I just sit there with the other people waiting for the bus. Except I'm never actually waiting for it. The bus gets you home fast, and I don't want that. I just go there to look at the people working out. See, the gym across the street has this big window, like the whole wall is a window. And they have those machines that make you feel like you walking up steps, and so everybody just be facing the bus stop, looking all crazy like they're about to pass out. And trust me, there ain't nothing funnier than that. So I check that out for a little while like it's some kind of movie. The About to Pass Out Show, starring Stair-Stepper Person 1 through 10. I know this all probably sounds kind of weird, maybe even creepy, but it's something to do when you're bored. Best part about being there is tearing into my sunflower seeds. They're like theater popcorn. About the sunflower seeds. I used to just put a whole bunch of them in my mouth at the same time, suck all the salt off, and then spit them out, machine gun style. I could have probably set a world record in that too, but now I've matured. Now I take my time, moving them around, positioning them for the perfect bite to pop open the shell, then carefully separating the seed from it with my tongue. Then, and this is the hard part, keeping the little seeds safe in the space between my teeth and tongue, I spit the shells out. And finally, after all that, I chew the seed up. I'm like a master at it, even though honestly, sunflower seeds don't taste like nothing. I'm not even sure they're really worth all the hassle, but I like the process anyway. My dad used to eat sunflower seeds too. That's where I got it from. But he used to chew the whole thing up, the shells, the seed, everything. Just devour them like some kind of beast. When I was really young, I used to ask him if a sunflower was going to grow inside of him since he ate the seeds so much. He was always watching some kind of game, like football or basketball, and he'd turn to me just for a second, just long enough to not miss a play, and say, "Sunflowers are all up in me, kid." Then he'd shake up the seeds in his palm like dice before throwing another bunch into his grill and chomp down on. But let me tell you, my dad was lying. Wasn't no sunflowers growing in him. Couldn't have been. I don't know a whole lot about sunflowers, but I know they're pretty and girls like them, and I know the word sunflower is made up of two good words, and that man ain't got no good words in him, or anything that any girl would like, because girls don't like men who try to shoot them and their son. And that's the kind of man he was. It was 3 years ago when my dad lost it, when the liquor made him meaner than he'd ever been. Every other night, he would become a different person, like he'd morph into someone crazy. But this one night, my mother decided to finally fight back. This one night, everything went worse. I had my head sandwiched between the mattress and my pillow, something I got used to doing whenever they were going at it, when my mom crashed into my bedroom. "We gotta go," she said, yanking the covers off the bed. And when I didn't move fast enough, she yelled, "Come on!" Next thing I knew, she was dragging me down the hallway, my feet tripping over themselves. And that's when I looked back and saw him, my dad, staggering from the bedroom, his lips bloody, a pistol in his hand. "Don't make me do this, Terry," he angrily begged. But me and my mom kept rolling. The sound of the gun cocking, the sound of the door unlocking. As soon as he swung the door open, my dad fired a shot. He was shooting at us, my dad. My dad was actually shooting at us, his wife and his boy. I didn't look to see what he hit, mainly because I was scared it was going to be me or Ma. The sound was big, sharp enough to make me feel like my brain was going to pop in my head, enough to make my heart hiccup. But the craziest thing was, I felt like the shot, loudest sound I ever heard, made my legs move even faster. I don't know if that's possible, but that's definitely what it seemed like. My mom and I kept running down the staircase into the street, breaking into the darkness with death chasing behind us. We ran and ran and ran, until finally we came up on Mr. Charles's store, which luckily for us stays open 24/7. Mr. Charles took one look at me and my mom, out of breath, crying, barefoot in our pajamas, and hid us in his storage room while he called the cops. We stayed there all night. I haven't seen my dad since. Ma said the cops said that when they got to the house, he was sitting outside on the steps, shirtless, with the pistol beside him, guzzling beer, eating sunflower seeds, waiting. Like he wanted to get caught, like it was no big deal. They gave him 10 years in prison, and to be honest, I don't know if I'm happy about that or not. Sometimes I wish he would have gotten forever in jail. Other times I wish he was home on the couch, watching the game, shaking seeds in his hand. Either way, one thing is for sure. That was the night I learned how to run. So when I was done sitting at the bus stop in the front of the gym and came across all those kids on the track in the park practicing, I had to go see what was going on, because running ain't nothing I ever had to practice. It's just something I knew how to do. Chapter 2. World record for the fastest tryout ever. At first, I watched through the gate. I was going to keep moving, but when I saw that there were other people down closer to the track, hanging out, watching the practice, like moms and stuff, so I joined them. Well, I didn't sit with them because that would have been weird, but I grabbed a seat on one of the other benches. My school didn't have a track team, not that I would have tried out for it if it did. I was more into basketball. That was my sport, even though I never really played. Sometimes on my walk home, I would stop at the court and see if I could get a pickup game, but no one ever picked me, mainly because the old heads didn't like running with kids my age. But I always had this feeling that if I could just get on, I'd be the next LeBron. But I never wanted to be the next, whoever the most famous runner is. I never even thought about it. I looked in the world records book and it said some dude named Usain Bolt is the fastest, but I had never heard of him. My dad never watched running on TV. Are there even any famous runners? Like, seriously? I never heard of one, but judging from the way these kids were stretching and jumping around on the track, some of them probably had. Okay, let's get some high knees, the coach was commanding. He was short and bald, but I could tell that his baldy didn't come from all his hair falling out. He was one of those guys who shaved it. Actually, he was one of those guys who shaved all the hair on his face except his eyebrows, which wasn't a good look. He looked like a turtle with a chipped tooth, wearing a hoop earring and a black whistle around his neck. Up, up, up! There were boys and girls around my age, everybody dressed in shorts and t-shirts, holding their arms out in front of them, doing a jump march kind of thing, slapping their knees to their hands. Come on, Sonny! It's only the second day of practice and you're already slacking. The coach barked at the tallest boy out there. He was holding a clipboard and smacked it against his leg. Get him up! I sat with my feet spread apart so I could spit the sunflower seed shells on the ground between them. The salt was making me so thirsty, but I just couldn't stop eating them. On the track, the high knees things were followed by jumping jacks and some warm-up laps around the track, which seemed like a really bad idea to me. I mean, why would you run to warm up? You'd be tired before it's even time to race. Duh. Then all the runners gathered around the turtle-faced coach. Listen up, he said. If you're on this track, you either have to be ready to be part of the defenders or you have to be recruited to be part of the defenders. He was talking to them like they had just joined the army or something. I'm sure you all know what that means, but in case you don't, it means that you are part of one of the best youth teams in the city. We are the people the top high schools come to for talent. And if you go to a good high school and do well on a good team, guess what? You might even get to go to college for free. Don't nobody go to college for free to run no races, I thought to myself, spitting a shell out. I hate it when they get stuck onto your tongue and you got to do that spit flick thing. So annoying. A weird-looking kid. I can't really explain what he looked like. Well, let me try. You know how I said Mr. Charles looked like LeBron James if LeBron James was white? Well, this kid looked like a white boy if a white boy was black. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Let me start it over. His skin was white, like the color white, and his hair was light brown. But his face looked like a black person's. Like God forgot to put the brown in him. Wait, is that like Mr. Charles or not? Forget it. Anyway, the boy raised his hand. Yes, Lou, the coach said. Is it true you ran in the Olympics? The kid asked. Is it true that you didn't? The coach shot back, playing him out. The boy called Lou stood there like he just got slapped in the face by one of Charlotte Lee's rubber ducks. Like he didn't know what to do. He stammered, not sure what to say. Don't worry about what I've done. Worry about what you want to do. If you stick with me, I can get you there. The coach wiped spit from the corners of his mouth. Now, he said, looking at the roll sheet, let's see what we can do with you newbies. Lou, Patina, Sonny, on the line. The three newbies hustled down to the other end of the track. Lou, you're up first. 100-meter on the whistle, the coach directed. The weird-looking dude, Lou, was decked out in the flyest gear. Fresh Nike running shoes and a full-body skin-tight suit, like a superhero. He wore a headband and a gold chain around his neck, and a diamond glinted in each ear. All the other runners stood off to the side as the coach put the whistle in his mouth. He held a stopwatch in his other hand. "Ready," he said through his teeth. Then came the short squeak, beep, and Lou took off. It was quick. I mean, this kid was really fast. When he got to the end of the straightaway, a woman who was sitting on a bench on the other side of the track jumped up and squealed and clapped like this dude was some kind of celebrity or something. I was impressed. Not enough to clap. Really, I was just happy something unboring was finally happening, but definitely impressed enough to stop sorting seeds in my mouth until he was done. "Nice job," the coach said to Lou, as Lou trotted back over to the side like a pro, like this was no big deal. And he knew it. He glanced over at me. I spit shells on the ground. The coach also called out a time and scribbled it down, but I didn't catch it. Next up was the big, goofy-looking kid the coach called Sonny. He was the one getting yelled at when I first got there about no kicking his legs up high enough in the warm-up. To be honest, he didn't look like he could even walk in a straight line, so I figured this was going to be pretty funny. Sonny got in position, closed his eyes, and took slow, deep breaths. Then the coach blew the whistle, and off he went. I could tell he was pushing as hard as he could, but he just wasn't going nowhere. It was like he was running into the wind, even though it wasn't a windy day. Like his shoes weighed a ton, or his bones were heavy or something. Nobody cheered for him, and a few of the other kids even laughed. "We'll see who's laughing when we get to the mile," the coach barked at the sniggering runners. They all cut it out quick. Sonny lopped back over and joined the group, unfazed. He didn't even mind that he had run the slowest I'd ever seen anyone run. His sprint was like a jog. My mother probably could have smoked him. Mr. Charles might have even burned him up, and he's like 1,000 years old. The coach gave Sonny a nod, then turned to the next person, a girl. Next up, Patina. The Patina girl was tall and sprang up and down on her toes, rolling her neck and shoulders, I guess to loosen up. Her hair was yanked back in a stubby ponytail with lots of frizz around the edges. When the coach blew the whistle, Patina broke out in a flash, zooming down the track definitely faster than Sonny, but not quite as fast as Lou. Still, I was impressed. I mean, I don't know a whole bunch of girls who can run that fast. Actually, I don't really know a whole bunch of girls who run at all. They always be trying to be so cute in school, but I ain't mad about that. "Y'all vets be looking out for this girl. She runs the 800 like it's a skip down the block," the coach said, giving Patina a high five. If anybody complimented me like that, I'd be trying hard not to smile, but would probably slip a little one in there. But she, Patina, she just kept it cool and got back in line like it was nothing. I could tell she was no joke. After Lou, Sonny, and Patina ran, the coach told all the other runners, the vets, to line up and show the newbies how it's done. So on and on it went, the whistle blowing one by one, boys and girls on their line, sprinting down the straightaway. Each of their times being recorded. Some were faster than others. Actually, most of the vets were pretty fast, but nobody was faster than the pretty boy, Lou. Nobody. And the coach kept saying stuff like, "Lou's still the one to beat," which was kind of pissing me off because, I don't know, it just made me think about this kid Brandon at school, who always picked on me. Not even just me, though. He picked on a lot of people. And didn't nobody even do nothing about it. They just kept saying stupid stuff like, "Can't nobody beat him." Same kind of rah-rah this bowling ball head coach was kicking about this kid Lou. It's just, ugh. I mean, he was fast, but honestly, he wasn't that fast. When everyone had taken a turn, the coach started over and gave everybody a chance to give it another go to see if they could beat their finish time. So Lou was up for another go. He did that same cocky swagger over to the starting line, did a few stretches and jumps, and the lady on the other side of the track screamed again. The boy was just getting loose, and she was going off like he was doing something. The people around her looked as if she was crazy, obviously annoyed. All of his teammates looked on. Some of them seemed to be bubbling with anticipation to see the mighty Lou run again. Others looked over it. That's probably how I looked. That's definitely how I felt. Over Lou, over Brandon, and over anybody else who thought they were unbeatable. Not to mention I was all out of sunflower seeds, so I had nothing to hold me back from getting up and showing him that he really wasn't all that, and that I ain't never had a running lesson in my whole life, but I could keep up with him, if not beat him. So I stepped over all the sunflower seed shells that had piled up between my feet like a mountain of dead flies, and walked, not on the track, but just beside it, on the grass. I lined up with Lou, who had now dropped into his on your mark stance. I didn't need to do all that. I just needed to roll up my jeans and tuck my laces into my high tops, and I was good to go. Coach Turtleface noticed me and called out, "Kid, what are you doing? This is a private practice." I still didn't respond and just started scrunching my sleeves of my t-shirt up to my shoulders. "Did you hear me?" the coach asked now, a little louder this time. He started walking toward me. The other kids were looking at me like most kids did, like I was something else, like I wasn't one of them. But whatever. "Do you not understand what private means?" the coach jeered. I thought of a funny comeback, but kept it to myself. "Yeah, man, the track is for runners, not people who want to pretend like they're runners." Lou jabbed down, standing straight. He looked me up and down, then flashed an arrogant grin. "Just blow the whistle," I finally called back to the coach. He stopped in his tracks and glared. Then he looked at Lou before continuing in my direction. He pointed his clipboard at me. "Listen, you get one run, hear me? After this, I don't want to see you here no more." He threatened. "This is serious business, you understand?" I gave him the whatever face and nodded. He pointed his stupid clipboard at me again like I was scared of that. "Please." Then as the coach headed back to the finish line, Lou shook his head at me and growled, "Hope you're ready to get smoked." This time I said it. Whatever. I gave him my best ice grill to make sure he knew he didn't scare me, and he didn't. We were just running, not fighting, so why should I be frightened of some milk-faced running boy? Now back on the other end of the track, the coach yelled out, "On your mark." Lou dropped down on all fours again. I put my right foot forward. "Get set." Luke put his butt in the air. I leaned in. Then, buddy. I wish I could tell you what I was thinking, but I can't. I probably wasn't thinking nothing, just moving. Man, my legs were going. I pumped and pushed. My ankles loose and wobbled in my sneakers. My jeans stiff and hot. The whole time seeing Lou out of the corner of my eye like a white blur. And then it was over. And everybody watching. All the other runners clapped and hooted, pointing at us. Some had their mouths open. Others just looked confused. The lady on the side of the track, not a peep. But all the people around her were standing and cheering. Lou walked in circles with his hands on his head, trying to catch his breath, panting, wheezing out, "Who won, Coach? Who won, Coach?" "I don't know, son. It was pretty close." The coach said it like the words were sour in his mouth. I walked back over to the bench, grabbed my backpack, and to keep my part of the deal, headed out. I'd made my point, and it wasn't like I wanted to be part of their little club. I just needed everybody to know that the fancy white black boy wasn't all that. "Kid," I could hear the coach's footstep coming behind me. I was still trying to get my heart to stop tripping and my lungs to start working again. "Kid, wait, wait," he said, running up beside me. He was wearing those sweatpants, the swishy kind that make every step sound like paper crumbling. "Who you run for?" he asked. "What? Who did I run for?" What kind of question was that? "I run for me. Who else?" I replied. I stopped walking. "No, I mean, what team?" "No team." "I see." He glanced over the track. "So then who trained you?" Somebody had to train you to be so fast. Nobody. I just know how to run. You just know how to run, he repeated under his breath, followed up by, yes, yes you do. Also breath talk. Look, I don't know you. What's your name? Castle Cranshaw, I said, then quickly clarified, but everyone calls me Ghost. By everybody I meant nobody except me. That was my self-given nickname. Well, halfway self-given. The night me and Ma busted into Mr. Charles' store, Mr. Charles looked at us like he was looking at two ghosts, like he didn't recognize us, probably because of how scared we both must have looked. So I just started calling myself that. Plus, it wasn't the only time somebody had looked at me that way. As a matter of fact, this man, the coach, was looking at me the exact same way Mr. Charles did that night, stunned. And I couldn't tell if it was because my real name was Castle or because of my nickname. Okay, Ghost, I'm Coach Brady. We did a proper handshake. Listen, like I said, I don't know you, obviously, but I know you got something special, at least I think you do. So you want to join the Defenders and run with us? I didn't even think about it. Nope, just like that. Nope. Judging by the look on Coach's face, I could tell nobody said no to running on this team ever. What do you mean, nope? Why not? All the other runners on the team were cackling jokes and playing around. Everybody except Lou. He was back on the line, down on his knees, like he was getting ready to take off again. Because my sport is basketball. You play ball? He asked, like he didn't believe it. Like I didn't even look like I could hoop. Yep, for who? Why do you keep asking me who I do things for? I snapped, mainly because I didn't play ball for nobody. Not yet, at least. But it was still in my plans. Plus, who was he to be all in my business anyway? I didn't even know him, and he didn't know me. Look, even if I wanted to join your team, I continued, I would have to ask my mother first, and she's probably going to say no, so let me ask her, he cut in. Why you care? It's just running, I said. Is that what you think? Coach narrowed his eyes. That this is just running? Yeah, I mean, what else is there? Ready, set, go, run, the end, I said like a robot. Coach let out a hearty laugh, the kind that sounds fake. Nobody really laughs that hard and that loud without bending over like it hurts. We'll get to that, Coach said, cutting his laugh off instantly. Like I said, fake. For now, let's focus on the task at hand. If your mom says it's cool, will you join? I told you, I play ball. Coach sized me up, biting down on his bottom lip. Okay, I'll tell you what. Basketball's your sport. Cool. But if you want to be a better ball player, join this team, and you'll be faster and stronger than anyone on the court. Matter of fact, your legs will be so strong you'll be dunking on people by next year. You think I'm stupid? I looked at him sideways. Ain't no way I could be dunking in the air. I never heard of no 8th graders that can dunk. Depends on what you say next. You are if you don't let me ask your mom about joining. Coach was looking at me like he was dead serious. Like he really thought running could help my hoops and get me dunking by next year. What if that did happen? I would go right down to the court with Sicko and them and demand to play. I kept checking his face for a sign he was lying, a sign that would have been easy to see because he didn't have any hair to disguise it, but there was no sign, no lie. Man, I'm telling you, she ain't gonna say yes. Good enough, the coach nodded, a sure smirk on his face. Practice is almost over, might as well stay, and then I'll drop you off at home. I'll talk to her then, cool? Not cool. Not really. I mean, track? And who was this man? I've seen those weird shows where psychos pose like coaches and stuff and get you caught up, and the next thing you know, my mother's in jail, too, for handling this dude. I didn't trust him. But on the other hand, I didn't really have anything else to do, or nowhere else to be. So I figured it was worth scoping him out and seeing how he acted around all the other kids and their parents. I mean, I could always use the ride home, but I ain't no fool. After practice was done, everybody met up with the people waiting for them, family and friends or whatever. Coach spent a lot of time talking to all of the moms and dads, mostly moms, especially of the vets. They all acted like they really knew each other, like family, hugs and all that. And that made me feel a little better about him because mom don't trust nobody around their kids. Moms don't trust nobody around their kids. So I agreed on the ride. Coach and I walked to his car, which I was surprised to see was a cab. You stole a cab? I asked. While he cleaned a bunch of stuff off the seat. Food bags, shoes, water bottles, sports drink. The front of his car was a mess. He threw everything in the back. No, Coach said, brushing combs on the floor so I could finally get in. What makes you think that? Because you coach, I said, holding my backpack in my lap. So how you get one? I coach because I love it, but it don't pay the rent. Being a cab driver does. He started the car. Then why would you love coaching? Seems like if you being a cabbie gets you paid, that should be what you love. I explained what seemed obvious looking out the window. Coach backed out of the parking space. Wait, I said. You're not going to make me pay for this ride home, are you? Because if you are, you can just let me out and I can just walk. Why would I make you? Coach started, then stopped. Then he sighed. Just tell me where you live. Where I live. Where I live. When anyone ever asks about where I live, I get weird. Because people always treat you funny when they found out you stay in a certain kind of neighborhood. But I was used to people treating me funny. When your clothes are 2 sizes too big, and you got on no-name sneakers, and your mother cuts your hair and it looks like your mother cuts your hair, you get used to people treating you funny. So what's one more person? Glass Manor, I said. You know where that's at? Coach didn't blink. Yeah, I know where that is. We didn't really say too much in the car, just zipped from side of one neighborhood to the other, from the good side to the other side. It was my first time ever in a cab. I was used to walking everywhere unless I was going somewhere with my mom. Then it was on the bus. Coach talked on the phone most of the trip, judging by what he was saying, what time he'd be home, checking to see if somebody named Tyrone had eaten yet, asking what was for dinner, made me think he was talking to his wife. I wonder what she looked like. Probably not too hot, since she married a man who looks like a chip-toothed turtle. Coach was saying something about gym shoes to the maybe wife on the phone when I noticed a woman walking in white scrubs, white sneakers, carrying a black leather purse bag big enough to fit the whole world in on her arm, and her hair was cut like a boy's. I tapped Coach on the arm and told him to pull the cab over. Hold on, he said to the person on the phone, then to me. What? Pull over, I repeated. That's my mother. Coach pulled to the side of the street, and I rolled down the window. Ma, I called out, waving to her. She looked, then laughed, trying to make sure I was who she thought she was. Cass, she said, approaching the cab. What are you doing in a cab? Matter of fact, what are you doing in the front seat of a cab? No, answer the question first. What are you doing in a cab? Hop in, I said. No, you hop out, she replied. Ma. Ma'am. Coach leaned over so she could see him. It's fine. Hop in. I'm just giving him a ride home. Then he added, on the house. Coach swiped everything in the back seat to one side as I reached back and opened the door. My mother stood outside the car for what seemed like minutes before climbing in. And even after she did, she kept the door open, one foot still on the sidewalk, so she could jump back out if she needed to. Her bag, which I knew was full of styrofoam containers of chicken and gravy or whatever gross but free meal we were going to be having for dinner, crunched on her seat beside her as she finally pulled her leg in and closed the door. How was work? I asked as Coach pulled back into the street. Cass, don't how work was me. Why are you in a cab? And excuse me, sir, no offense, but who are you? She asked. Told you. Moms don't trust nobody around their kids. Coach adjusted the rearview mirror so he could see my mother in the back. I'm Coach Brady, but everybody calls me Coach. I run the Defenders City track team. Uh-huh. And your son came and sat in on my practice today. Coach threw a quick glance at me. Did you know he could run? Did I know he could run? She was sitting directly behind me, but I could still feel the heat of her eyes burning through the headrest, scorching the back of my neck. Yeah, he can run. Like, really run. My mother just sort of grunted. I knew better than to say anything, or to even turn around and look back at her. I just said to Coach, "Make this left," when we got close to my street. Coach made the left and continued, "And I think he's got potential. With the proper coaching, he could be a serious problem." I felt like I had seen this in every single sports movie I had ever watched. All of them. "Ma'am, your son has potential." If this went like the movies, I was either going to score the game-winning touchdown, which is impossible in track, or die. "Sir, I appreciate that, but let me tell you something. Cass already is a serious problem," my mom explained, "and right now he needs to focus on school, not sports." Right here, I murmured to the coach to let the coach know where to stop and let us out. I figured there was no reason to drag the conversation out. It went exactly like I thought it would, so I wasn't especially really even mad about it. He cut his blinker on, pulled over, and put the car in park. "Listen," Coach turned around to look at my mother in the face. "I totally get that. But what if I made you a deal?" he went on. "If he messes up in school, one time he's off the team." "One time?" I squawked. "One time." Coach held his hand out to my mother. I kept my eyes forward until I heard her exhale the long breath of a long day. "You're going to get him home every day?" she asked. "Yes." "What about his homework?" "It'll be done." He sounded pretty confident for not even knowing me like that. Coach gave us both one of his cards. I put mine in my backpack while Mom gazed at hers, making sure everything was legit. Then she let out another big sigh. This time probably the breath of a worried woman. "Well, at least I'll know where he'll be after school," she gave in. And that was that. Just like that, for the first time in my whole life, I was on a team.